Hello and welcome back to the reading of the Holy Bible. Today we will be reading Judges chapters 17, 18, 19, and 20. And then I believe we said we were going to read 21 as well. Yes, and then 21 because that will happen to finish Judges. So we'll be reading 5 chapters today. Let us begin. Chapter 17, The Idol of Micas. There was at that time a man of Mount Ephraim, whose name was Micas, who said to his mother, The 1100 pieces of silver which thou hast put aside for thyself, and concerning which thou didst swear in my hearing, behold, I have, and they are with me. And she said to him, Blessed be my son by the Lord. So he restored them to his mother, who said to him, I have consecrated and vowed this silver to the Lord, that my son may receive it at my hand, and make a graven and a molten god. So now I deliver it to thee. And he restored them to his mother, and she took 200 pieces of silver, and gave them to the silversmith, to make of them a graven and molten god, which is in the house of Micas. And he separated also therein a little temple for the god, and made an ephod, and a teraphim, that is to say, a priestly garment, and idols, and he filled the hand of one of his sons, and he became his priest. Chapter 17, verse 5. Filled the hand, in example, appointed and consecrated him to the priestly office. Resuming with verse 6. In those days there was no king in Israel, but everyone did that which seemed right to himself. Micas hires a Levite to be his priest. There was also another young man of Bethlehem, Judah, of the kindred thereof. He was a Levite, and dwelt there. Now he went out from the city of Bethlehem, and desired to sojourn wheresoever he should find it convenient for him. And when he was come to Mount Ephraim, as he was on his journey, and had turned aside a little into the house of Micas, he was asked by him whence he came. He answered, I am a Levite of Bethlehem, Judah, and I am going to dwell where I can, and where I shall find a place to my advantage. And Micah said, Stay with me, and be unto me a father and a priest. And I'll give thee every year 10 pieces of silver, and a double suit of apparel, and thy victuals. He was content and abode with the man, and was unto him as one of his sons. And Micah filled his hand, and had the young man with him, for his priest, saying, Now I know God will do me good, since I have a priest of the race of the Levites. Chapter 18. The tribes of Dan seek an inheritance. The tribe of Dan seeks an inheritance. In those days there was no king in Israel, and the tribe of Dan sought them an inheritance to dwell in. For unto that day they had not received their lot among the other tribes. So the children of Dan sent 5 most valiant men of their stock and family from Sarah and Esethel to spy out the land, and to view it diligently. And they said to them, Go and view the land. They went on their way, and when they came to Mount Ephraim, they went into the house of Micas, and rested there. And knowing the voice of the young man the Levite, and lodging with him, they said to him, Who brought thee hither? Why dost thou here? What dost thou here? Why wouldst thou come hither? He answered them, Micas hath done such and such things for me, and hath desired me to be his priest. Then they desired him to consult the Lord, that they might know whether their journey should be prosperous, and the thing should have effect. He answered them, Go in peace, the Lord looketh on your way, and the journey that you go. The Danites covet Laius. There is a chapter 18, verse 1 clarification. Not received. They had their portions of the promised land assigned to them. Joshua chapter 19, verse 40. But through their own sloth had only taken a small part of it. Resuming with verse 7. The Danites covet Laius. So the 5 men going on came to Laius, and they saw how the people dwelt therein without any fear, according to the custom of the Sidonians, secure and easy, having no man at all to oppose them, being very rich and living separated at a distance from Sidon, and from all men. And they returned to their brethren in Sarah and Esethel, who asked them what they had done. To whom they answered, Arise, and let us go up to them, for we have seen the land which is exceeding rich and fruitful. Neglect not, lose no time. Let us go and possess it. There will be no difficulty. We shall come to a people that is secure, and to a spacious country. And the Lord will deliver the place to us, in which there is no want of anything that groweth on the earth. The Danites steal an idol and a priest. There went therefore of the kindred of Dan, to wit, from Sarah and Esethel, 600 men, furnished with arms for war. And going up they lodged in Kiriathaim of Judah, which place from that time is called the camp of Dan, and is called Kiriathaim. From thence they passed into Mount Ephraim. And when they were come to the house of Micas, the 5 men that before had been sent to view the land of Laius said to the rest of their brethren, You know that in these houses there are an ephod, and teraphim, and a graven and a molten god. See what you are pleased to do. When they had turned a little aside, they went into the house of the young man, the Levite, who was in the house of Micah, and they saluted him with words of peace. And the 600 men stood before the door, pointing with their arms. But that they were gone into the house of the young man, went about to take away the graven god, and the ephod, and the teraphim, and the molten god. And the priest stood before the door, the 600 valiant men waiting not far off. So they that were gone in took away the graven thing, the ephod, and the idols, and the molten god. And the priest said to them, What are you doing? And they said to him, Hold thy peace, and put thy finger on thy mouth, and come with us, that we may have thee for a father and a priest. Whether it is better for thee to be a priest in the house of one man, or in a tribe and family in Israel? When he had heard this, he agreed to their words, and took the ephod, and the idols, and the graven god, and departed with them. Micah pursues the Danites. And when they were going forward, and had put before them all the children, and the cattle, and all that was valuable, and were now at a distance from the house of Micah, the men that dwelt in the houses of Micah, gathering together, followed them, began to shout out after them. They looked back, and said to Micah, What aileth thee? Why dost thou cry? And he answered, You have taken away my gods, which I have made, me and the priest, and all that I have, and do you say, What aileth thee? And the children of Dan said to him, See thou say no more to us, lest men enraged come upon thee, and thou perish with all thy house. And so they went on the journey they had begun. But Micah, seeing that they were stronger than he, returned to his house. The Danites capture Laius. The 600 men took the priests and the things we spoke of before, and came to Laius, to a people that was quiet and secure, and smote them with the edge of the sword, and the city was burnt with fire, there being no man at all who brought them any succor, because they dwelt far from Sidon, and had no society or business with any man. And the city was in the land of Rahab, and they rebuilt it and dwelt therein, calling the name of the city Dan, after the name of their father, who was the son of Israel, which before was called Laius. And they set up to themselves the graven idol, and Jonathan, the son of Gershom, the son of Moses, he and his sons were priests in the tribe of Dan until the day of their captivity. And the idol of Micah remained with them all the time that the house of God was in Shiloh. In those days there was no king in Israel. Chapter 19. A Levite seeks his wife in Bethlehem. There was a certain Levite who dwelt on the side of Mount Ephraim, who took a wife of Bethlehem, Judah, and she left him, returned to her father's house in Bethlehem, and abode with him for 4 months. And her husband followed her, willing to be reconciled with her, and to speak kindly to her, and to bring her back with him, having with him a servant and 2 asses. And she received him, and brought him into her father's house. When his father-in-law had heard this, and had seen him, he met him with joy, and embraced the man. And the son-in-law tarried in the house of his father-in-law 3 days, eating with him and drinking familiarly. Apologies. The Levite tries to depart for home, but on the 4th day, arising early in the morning, he desired to depart. But his father-in-law kept him, and said to him, Taste first a little bread, and strengthen thy stomach, and so thou shalt depart. They sat down together, and ate and drank. And the father of the young woman said to his son-in-law, I beseech thee to stay here today, and let us make merry together. But he, rising up, began to be for departing, and nevertheless his father-in-law earnestly pressed him, and made him stay with him. But when morning was come, the Levite prepared to go on his journey. And his father-in-law said to him again, I beseech thee to take a little meat, and strengthening thyself, till the day be farther advanced. Afterwards thou mayest depart. They ate together, and the young man arose to set forward with his wife and servant. And his father-in-law spoke to him again, Consider that the day is declining, and draweth toward evening. Tarry mirth, and tomorrow thou shalt depart, that thou mayest go into thy house. His son-in-law would not consent to his words, but forthwith went forward and came over against Jebus, by which another man is called Jerusalem, leading with him 2 asses laden in his concubine. Chapter 19, verse 10, clarification, concubine. She was his lawful wife, but even lawful wives are frequently in Scripture called concubines. Judges chapter 8, verse 31, resuming with verse 11. And now they were come near Jebus, and the day was far spent. And the servant said to his master, Come, I beseech thee, let us turn to the city of the Jebusites and lodge there. His master answered them, I will not go into the town of another nation, who are not of the children of Israel, but I will pass over to Gaba, and when I shall come thither, we will lodge in there, or at least in the city of Ramah. An old man of Gaba lodges the Levite. So they passed by Jebus, and went on their journey, and the sun went down upon them when they were up by Gaba, which is in the tribe of Benjamin. And they turned into it to lodge there. And when they were come in, and they sat in the street of the city, for no man would receive them to lodge. And behold, they saw an old man returning out of the field, and from his work in the evening, and he also was of Mount Ephraim, and dwelt as a stranger. And dwelt as a stranger in Gaba. But the men of that country were the children of Gemini. Verse 16, clarification. Gemini, an example, Benjamin. And the old, resuming with verse 17. And the old man, lifting up his eyes, saw the man sitting with his bundles in the street of the city, and said to him, Whence comest thou, and whither goest thou? He answered him, We come out from Bethlehem, Judah, and we are going to our home, which is on the side of Mount Ephraim, from whence we went to Bethlehem, and now we go to the house of God, and none will receive us under his roof. We have straw and hay for provender of the asses, and bread and wine for the use of myself and of thy handmaid, and of the servant that is with me. We want nothing but lodging. The old man answered him, Peace be with thee. I will furnish all things that are necessary. Only I beseech thee, stay not in the street. And he brought him into his house, and gave provender to his asses. And after they had washed their feet, he entered them with a feast. Men of Gaba abused the Levite's wife. While they were making merry and refreshing their bodies with meat and drink, after the labor of the journey, the men of the city, sons of Belial, that is, without yoke, came and beset the old man's house, and began to knock at the door, calling to the master of the house, and saying, Bring forth the man that came into thy house, that we may abuse him. The old man went out to them, and said, Do not so, my brethren, do not so wickedly, because this man has come into my lodging. And cease, I pray you, from this folly. I have a maiden daughter, and this man hath a concubine. I have a maiden daughter, and this man hath a concubine. I'll bring them out to you, and you may humble them, and satisfy your lust. Only I beseech you, commit not this crime against nature on the man. They would not be satisfied with his words, which the man seeing brought out his concubine to them, and abandoned her to their wickedness. And when they had abused her all the night, they let her go in the morning. Death of the Levite's wife. But the woman, at the dawning of the day, came to the door of the house where her lord lodged, and there fell down. And in the morning the man arose and opened the door, that he might end the journey he had begun. And behold, his concubine lay before the door, with her hands spread on the threshold. He, thinking she was taking her rest, said to her, Arise, and let's be going. But as she made no answer, perceiving she was dead, he took her up and laid her upon his ass, and returned to his house. The Levite divides his wife's body. And when he was come home, he took a sword, and divided the dead body of his wife with her bones into 12 parts, and sent the pieces into all the borders of Israel. And when everyone had seen this, they all cried out, There was never such a thing done in Israel, from the day that our fathers came up out of Egypt until this day. Give sentence, and decree in common what ought to be done. Chapter 20. The Levite reveals the crime. Then all the children of Israel went out and gathered together as one man from Dan to Beersheba, with the land of Galilee, to the Lord in Maspah. And all the chiefs of the people and all the tribes of Israel met together in the assembly of the people of God, 400,000 footmen fit for war. Nor were the children of Benjamin ignorant that the children of Israel were come up to Maspah. And the Levite, the husband of the woman that was killed, being asked how so great a wickedness had been committed, answered, I came into Gaba of Benjamin with my wife, and there I lodged. And behold, the men of that city in the night beset me, and abused my wife with an incredible fury of lust, so that at last she died. And I took her, and cut her in pieces, and sent the parts into all the borders of your possession, because there never was so heinous a crime, and so great an abomination committed in Israel. You are all here, O children of Israel, determine what you ought to do. The Israelites decide to attack Gaba, and all the people standing answered as by the voice of one man, We will not return to our tents, neither shall any one of us go into his own house, but this we will do in common against Gaba. We will take 10 men of 100 out of all the tribes of Israel, and 100 out of 1,000, and 1,000 out of 10,000, to bring victuals for the army, that we might fight against Gaba Benjamin, and render to it for its wickedness what it deserveth. The tribe of Benjamin defends Gaba. And all Israel were gathered together against the city, as one man with one mind and one counsel. They sent messengers to all the tribe of Benjamin to say to them, Why hath so great an abomination been found among you? Deliver up the men of Gaba that have committed this heinous crime, that they may die, and the evil may be taken away out of Israel. But they would not hearken to the proposition of their brethren, the children of Israel. But out of all the cities which were of their lot, they gathered themselves together into Gaba, to aid them in to fight against the whole people of Israel. And there were found of Benjamin 25,000 men that drew the sword, besides the inhabitants of Gaba, who were 700 most valiant men, fighting with the left hand as well as with the right, and slinging stones so sure that they could hit even a hair, and not miss by the stones going on either side. Of the men of Israel also, beside the children of Benjamin, were found 400,000 that drew swords, and were prepared to fight. 40,000 Israelites slain. And they arose and came to the house of God, that is to Shiloh. And they consulted God and said, Who shall be in our army, the first to go to the battle against the children of Benjamin? And the Lord answered them, Let Judah be your leader. And forthwith the children of Israel, riding in the morning, camped by Gaba, and going out from thence to fight against Benjamin, began to assault the city. And the children of Benjamin, coming out of Gaba, slew of the children of Israel that day 22,000 men. Again, Israel, trusting in their strength and their number, set their army in array in the same place where they had fought before. Chapter 20, verse 20, clarification. Trusting in their strength, the Lord suffered them to be overthrown, and many of them to be slain, through their cause, though their cause was just, partly in punishment of the idolatry which they exercised or tolerated in the tribe of Dan, and elsewhere, and partly because they trusted in their own strength. Therefore, though he bid them fight, he would not give them the victory till they were thoroughly humbled and had learned to trust in him alone. Resuming with verse 23. Yet so that they first went up and wept before the Lord until night, and consulted him, and said, Shall I go out any more to fight against the children of Benjamin, my brethren, or not? And he answered them, Go up against them and join battle. Verse 23, clarification, and join battle. The Israelites did not seek divine protection, hence God allowed them to be routed. Resuming with verse 24. And when the children of Israel went out the next day to fight against the children of Benjamin, the children of Benjamin sallied forth out of the gates of Gaba, and meeting them, made so great a slaughter of them as to kill 18,000 men that drew the sword. The Israelites consult the Lord. Wherefore all the children of Israel came to the house of God, and sat and wept before the Lord. And they fasted that day till the evening, and offered to him holocaust and victims of peace offerings, and inquired of him concerning their state. At that time the ark of the covenant of the Lord was there, and Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, was over the house. So they consulted the Lord, and said, Shall we go out any more to fight against the children of Benjamin, our brethren, or shall we cease? Pardon me. And the Lord said to them, Go up, for tomorrow I will deliver them into your hands. By strategy the Israelites are victorious. And the children of Israel set ambushes round about the city of Gaba, and they drew up their army against Benjamin, the third time as they had done the first and second. And the children of Benjamin boldly issued out of the city, and seeing their enemies flee, pursued them a long way, so as to wound and kill some of them, as they had done the first and second day, whilst they fled by two highways, whereof one goeth up to Bethel, and the other to Gaba, and they slew about 30 men, for they thought to cut them off as they did before. But they, artfully feigning a fight, designed to draw them away from the city, and by their seeming to flee, to bring them to the highways aforesaid. Then all the children of Israel, rising up out of the places where they were, set their army in battle array, in the place which is called Baalthamar. The ambushes also which were about the city began by little and little to come forth, and to march from the west side of the city. And other 10,000 men, chosen out of all Israel, attacked the inhabitants of the city. And the battle grew hot against the children of Benjamin. And they understood not that present death threatened them on every side. And the Lord defeated them before the children of Israel. And they slew of them in that day 520,000. In that day 25,100, all fighting men, and that drew the sword. Flight and massacre of Benjamin. But the children of Benjamin, when they saw themselves to be too weak, began to flee, which the children of Israel, seeing, gave them place to flee, that they might come to the ambushes that were prepared, which they had set near the city. And they that were in ambush arose on a sudden out of their coverts, and whilst Benjamin turned their backs to the slayers, went into the city, and smote it with the edge of the sword. Now the children of Israel had given a sign to them, whom they had laid in ambushes, that after they had taken the city, they should make a fire, that by the smoke rising on high, they might show that the city was taken. And when the children of Israel saw this in the battle, for the children of Benjamin thought they fled, and pursued them vigorously, killing 30 men of their army, and perceived, as it were, a pillar of smoke rise up from the city. And Benjamin, looking back, saw that the city was taken, and that the flames ascended on high. They that before had made it as if they fled, turning their faces, stood bravely against them, which the children of Benjamin, seeing, turned their backs, began to go towards the way of the desert, the enemy pursuing them thither also. And they that fired the city came also out to meet them. And so it was that they were slain on both sides by the enemies, and there was no rest for their men dying. They fell, and were beaten down on the east side of the city Gaba. And they that were slain in the same place were 18,000 men, all most valiant soldiers. And when they that remained of Benjamin saw this, they fled into the wilderness, and made towards the rock that is called Rimmon. In that flight also, as they were struggling, and going different ways, they slew with them 5,000 men. And as they went farther, they still pursued them, and slew also thither 2,000. And so it came to pass that all that were slain of Benjamin in divers places were 25,000 fighting men, most valiant for war. Only 600 men of Benjamin survived, and there remained of all the number of Benjamin only 600 men that were able to escape and flee to the wilderness. And they abode in the rock Rimmon 4 months. But the children of Israel, returning, put all the remains of the city to the sword, both men and beasts, and all the cities and villages of Benjamin were consumed with devouring flames. Chapter 21. Israel bewails the fate of Benjamin. Now the children of Israel had also sworn in Massah, saying, None of us shall give of his daughters to the children of Benjamin to wife. And they all came to the house of God in Shiloh, and abiding before him till the evening, lifted up their voices and began to lament and weep, saying, O Lord, God of Israel, why is so great an evil come to pass in thy people, that this day one tribe should be taken away from among us? And rising early the next day, they built an altar, and offered their holocaust and victims of peace. And they said, Who is there among all the tribes of Israel that came not up with the army of the Lord? For they had bound themselves with a great oath when they were in Massah, that whatsoever were wanting should be slain. That whosoever were wanting should be slain. And the children of Israel being moved with repentance for their brother Benjamin, began to say, One tribe is taken away from Israel, one shall they take wives, for we have all in general sworn not to give our daughters to them. Men of Jabes Galad put to the sword. Therefore they said, Who is there of all the tribes of Israel that came not up to the Lord to Massah? And behold, the inhabitants of Jabes Galad were found not to have been in that army. At that time also, when they were in Shiloh, no one of them was found there. So they sent 10,000 of the most valiant men, and commanded them, saying, Go and put the inhabitants of Jabes Galad to the sword, with their wives and their children. And this is what you shall observe. Every male and all women that have known men you shall kill, but the virgins you shall save. And there were found of Jabes Galad 4,000 virgins that had not known the bed of a man. And they brought them to the camp in Shiloh into the land of Canaan. And they sent messengers to the children of Benjamin that were in the rock Rimmon, and commanded them to receive them in peace. And the children of Benjamin came at that time, and wives were given them of the daughters of Jabes Galad, but they found no others whom they might give in like manner. The Benjamites take wives from Shiloh, and all Israel was very sorry, repented for the destroying of one tribe out of Israel. And the ancients said, What shall we do with the rest that have not received wives? For all the women in Benjamin are dead. And we must use all care and provide with great diligence that one tribe be not destroyed out of Israel. For as to our own daughters, we cannot give them, being bound with an oath and a curse, whereby we said, Cursed be he that shall give Benjamin any of his daughters to wife. So they took counsel and said, Behold, there is a yearly solemnity of the Lord in Shiloh, which is situated on the north of the city of Bethel, and on the east side of the way that goeth from Bethel to Shechem, and the south of the town of Lebonah. And they commanded the children of Benjamin, and said, Go and lie hid in the vineyards, and when you shall see the daughters of Shiloh come out as the custom is to dance, come ye on a sudden out of the vineyards, and catch you every man his wife among them, and go into the land of Benjamin. And when their fathers and their brethren shall come, and shall begin to complain against you, to chide, we will say to them, Have pity on them, for they took them not away as by the right of war or conquest, but when they asked to have them, you gave them not, and the fault was committed on your part. And the children of Benjamin did as they had been commanded, and according to their number they carried off for themselves every man his wife of them that were dancing, and they went into their possession, and built up their cities and dwelt in them. The children of Israel also returned by their tribes and families to their dwellings. In those days there was no king in Israel, but every one did that which seemed right to himself. Thank you very much for joining me for chapters 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21 of Judges. Join me next week as we happen to do the book of Ruth. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And actually, after that, it looks like we'll be moving on to the book of Kings, because I forgot that the book of Ruth was only 4 chapters. So, thank you very much for joining me. You make sure that you all happen to have a wonderful day, wonderful week, in fact, and God bless.